Well, this is a very historic and bittersweet day in IndyCar racing history. This is, if you want to talk about a pivot point, a point where the guard is changing at the big teams in IndyCar racing, here it is. Will Power has been let go officially from Team Penske effective 10 o'clock this morning, or at least officially released 10 o'clock this morning. He's driven for the team since 2009. It was a bit of a risk on Will Power's part at the time because he had driven for KV Racing in 2008, won the last Champ Car race at Long Beach, but he didn't really have a lot of opportunities going into 2009. I suppose he could have taken a lower seat, a worse seat full time, but chose to take a risk replacing Helio Castroneves at Team Penske without a guarantee that he would have a seat. And when when Helio Castroneves was cleared of his tax evasion charges before Long Beach in 2009, Will Power thought he wasn't going to have a seat. And then all of a sudden, his faith was rewarded by Roger Penske when Roger started entering a third car for Will on a part-time basis through the rest of the season. Now, Will's 2009 season was a bit star-crossed. It ended with a broken back in a practice crash at Sonoma, but he returned in 2010 and has been full-time for the team since then, putting up historic numbers. He's fourth on the all-time win list. The only names that he is behind on the all-time win list are A.J. Foyt, Anthony Joseph Foyt himself, Scott Dixon, need I say more, and Mario Andretti. He's on Mount Rushmore. He is the fourth most winning driver in IndyCar racing, and he put up a number this year as well. I mean, he added to that at Portland this year, and I would assume he's going to continue to do that at whatever team that he continues with in IndyCar racing, which he absolutely will. We'll talk about that in just a second. But Will Power is number one all time. He is the fastest man in IndyCar history, the quickest man in IndyCar history, the all-time leader of pole positions at 71. That dwarfs second place Mario Andretti's paltry 65 career poles, 71 career poles for Will Power. That's unbelievable. The most all-time by a long stretch. But this is one of those things where I feel a little bit weird about this whole thing because I think the way that Team Penske has handled this hasn't been right. And we'll talk about that in just a second. But I do want to read the statement from the team as well as Roger Penske himself. Team Penske announced today that after 17 years driving for the legendary organization, Will Power will depart the team prior to the 2026 season. Will Power is one of IndyCar's most dedicated drivers with 45 wins, 2 IndyCar championships, 2014 and 2022. We'll talk about that 2022 championship here in just a second. And 1 Indianapolis 500 victory, that coming in 2018. Power collected 42 of his IndyCar victories during his time with Team Penske, in addition to the 71 pole positions that have distinguished him as the greatest qualifier in series history. Do we count Surfer's 2008? I don't think that technically counts, although I would say it's 72 poles. Team Penske will announce their plans for the number 12 Verizon Chevrolet at a later date prior to the 2026 season. As we sat down to talk about our future together, Will felt it was the time for him to make a change, beginning with the next season, said Roger Penske. He has been an outstanding driver and teammate for our organization. His results speak for themselves, and we will wish him the very best in the next phase of his career, says Roger Penske. And Will Power, also on the Team Penske statement, it has been the honor of my life to drive for Roger and the Penske organization, said Will Power. We have accomplished so much together, and I will always be grateful for my time with the team and my teammates who have supported me along the way. After much consideration, I felt like a change for me was the right move at this time, says William Power. So, look, when we get down to brass tacks, when we get to real talk, his contract expired when the checkered flag came out at Nashville. And the fact that there was any kind of confusion or concern or speculation that his contract would be extended after Nashville, I think, was wishful thinking at best, to be quite honest with you, because if they weren't going to re-sign him, or they were going to re-sign him, they wouldn't have left him hanging to the last race, the last moment of the season in Nashville. He was out. He knew he was out for quite a while, and I think a lot of the greater paddock knew he was out. The domino isn't so much that Will Power is out at Team Penske. The domino is where Will Power will eventually go. But for a driver who has had that level of success. You heard it in Team Penske's statement. You heard it in my opening remarks. For one team, I mean, imagine, I'll put it this way, imagine Ganassi doing this to Scott Dixon. I don't think that would happen. I mean, maybe we'll be talking about this in a couple of years where, Ganassi will give Dixon the runaround. But yeah, I feel like if the decision was we're going to move on from Will Power, the decision should have been made and vocalized to Will and made official to Will, and he should have been released at least from the ability to negotiate outside of Team Penske from his contract earlier than the last race of the season. Now, I guess I'll thank Team Penske for this. It gives us things to talk about in the offseason because now it's all kicking off. But yeah, I disagree with how Will was treated here. Now, as far as I know, and again, I have this on very good authority, so I feel comfortable in saying this. My understanding is the sticking point with Will and Team Penske wasn't so much that, there wasn't a desire to bring Will Power back. I think there was, but Will wants to run at least 3 more years in IndyCar, and Team Penske was not willing to commit to that much time. And so when there was that disagreement, there was going to be no contract agreed upon. And again, it comes back to the whole, well, if your driver's not going to sign for the contract that you want them to sign for, why keep them, under your roof until the last possible moment? And this is the thing, is that, if you think about Will Power's tenure at Team Penske, particularly in the most recent years, and you think about how much he's rewarded that team in some lean years, ever since Alex Palou started driving for Chip Ganassi Racing, there's been one driver who's consistently challenged for the championship that has not been named Alex Palou, and that's Will Power. He's the only driver in the Alex Palou Ganassi era to win a championship, that in 2022. And yes, Alex Palou was going through some legal difficulties, and that certainly delayed his championship hopes that year, but he still went into the last race with a shot at the championship. But it was Will Power that ultimately brought home the bacon. So and of course, you think back to last year, Nashville, Will Power came into the race with an opportunity to win the championship. He led the championship, thanks Arnie. For the last time anyone that's not named Alex Palou has led the championship was Laguna, going into Laguna in 2024. So Will has been consistently good. Now, has he been consistently good at the Indianapolis 500? No, and I think in a lot of ways, because how much emphasis Roger puts on, and the whole Team Penske organization puts on the Indianapolis 500, part of me thinks that his performance there hindered his ability to continue with Team Penske. I think that was a big factor in it, and that's just me speculating. That's, just looking at why someone would cut ties with Will Power. That's it. It's just a reflection on how the championship is valued versus how the Indianapolis 500 is valued, particularly in that organization. But if you also think back to St. Pete, 2024, where there were points penalties handed out to Team Penske, and it was 10 points to Will Power, and I think that hurt him down the stretch going for a championship. So, Team Penske hasn't totally been innocent in some of the struggles of Will Power. But if you look at the terrible season up until Nashville that Joseph Newgarden had, the struggles of Scott McLaughlin, yes, Will Power hasn't been 2010 Will Power or 2011 Will Power or 2014 Will Power, but he's still Will Power, and he's been the most reliable, consistent driver on that team. So it's disappointing that when they decided they couldn't continue, that just wasn't the end of it, and we had this whole media circus about the whole thing. And shout out to Will. I mean, he's put up with a lot of crap from the media. Hi, I'm the media. And he's handled it for the most part with grace. I mean, I think he saw the people who were well-intentioned and treated the people who were not so well-intentioned with a little bit more gruffness, if you've seen some of those interviews. So, yeah, I think we fully expect David Malukas will be in that seat. I mean, there's one rumor that's floating around out there that I'll throw out there a little bit later in this video, which I don't put too much stock in, but I'll put it out there because other people have put it out there. But again, I would take the non-David Malukas to Penske rumor with a tremendous amount of salt when we bring it up. Where will Power go, I think, is the next huge domino to fall. You can rickroll all you want, Colton Herta, but I still believe that you're going to Formula 2 next year. So, again, I could be totally wrong on that. Could be I'll own it. If I'm wrong about that, I will own it. But I think the most likely landing spot for Will Power is Andretti Global. Until I see or hear something that significantly proves me otherwise, I'm going to stick to that. That was the rumor as far back as Laguna Seca, that would be the landing spot for Will Power. Heard it then. There's been a couple of different rumors. Of course, we've heard Rahal. I'm not sure, just not sure they'll be able to pull that off. It would be cool to see. The other one that was floating around, which again I'm just kind of going like, really, guys, is that Will Power could potentially go to Prema. Again, the people that I've heard that from, or kind of the speculation about, like, are we really saying that because Will Power went to play drums with Waka Flocka, that we're thinking that that's why Will Power is going to Prema? Like, are we that critically thinking starved that we think that? I don't know, but there are some people are spreading that rumor. I don't know why. Again, I'll be right. If he's wearing red and green next year, but this is the team that we're talking about that couldn't afford their hospitality in May. The team that we're talking about might get bought or merged or something next year. They're going to be able to afford Will Power. Okay, I'll believe it when I see it. I think it's going to be Andretti. That's my opinion right now. Rinus VeeKay announced that he is leaving Dale Coyne Racing today. Pretty interesting stuff here because it has a lot of silly season implications. We'll read Rinus' statement because Rinus was really classy about it, I thought. And of course, I think Rinus really fell in love with the Dale Coyne Racing operation. If you listen to our interview with him on Unverified, by the way, you should tune in tonight at 8. He really loved Dale Coyne Racing, and I think the reason that he's leaving is that he's probably got a better opportunity somewhere else. We'll talk about that here in just a second. I want to thank Dale Coyne Racing, and in particular Dale and Gail, for the opportunity they gave me to reestablish myself in 2025. This year was genuinely one of the most enjoyable years in my career as an IndyCar driver. Especially big thanks to Rianto, JC, Nico, Carlo, Brennan, John, Ryan, Matthew, Connor, Ed, and Michael, Carey, and Michelle for giving your best effort every single season as the 18 crew this season, and the lessons will stay with me forever. And Rinus had a hell of a season in the 18 car. He took that car from the gutter to being a top 10 and top 5 and podium at times contender. So it's kind of a shame to see this get broken up because this was one of the great feel-good stories of the year. But I think there might be bigger and better things in the future of Rinus VeeKay. We'll talk about that here in just a second. Tony Donahue, my co-host on Unverified, sometimes my shadow in the garage area, says, which I totally believe. Tony's got a good source on this one. Rinus VeeKay has declined a contract offer from Dale Coyne Racing for the 2026 season. The team is changing its number 51 entry back to the number 19. And of course, Dale said in public when they announced the extension of the Ask ROI sponsorship, we will have our lineup announced by Halloween. And Tony goes on to say Dennis Hauger and Romain Grosjean have been rumored as the candidates for the 18 and 19. So we had the All-American Rejects play at Nashville. That sounds like the All-Andretti Rejects at Dale Coyne Racing next year. As for Rinus, I've heard a couple of different places that he could land. Tony has reported that maybe Foyt would be an opportunity. I've heard Juncos Hollinger Racing is another one. And huge, go get the salt mines out for this one. But the name Penske keeps coming up. I don't know how legit I don't think it's legit. I don't think we're going to see Rinus VeeKay in a Team Penske uniform. There's been a couple of people saying it, though. I'll throw it out there. I think if I was a betting man right now, I think I see him in Juncos Green next year. But we'll see. That's my bet on Rinus VeeKay. More news, and for those of us who enjoy airport racing, this might actually be kind of important. So there's a new street course or a temporary course, whatever we want to call it. We're not sure yet. In Toronto, or more accurately, Ontario, Canada, for next year. That will be announced at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time with Green Savory and the city of Markham in Ontario. Now, the idea is, and what we've heard is that it will be the Buttonville Airport, or at least incorporate the Buttonville Airport into the layout of the track. We're not exactly sure yet what that will look like. We'll find out tomorrow. I did a little bit of art school. I did not actually. I just went on Paint and just quickly drew a doodle of what I think the track would look like. But I looked at the airport and I said, well, how can I make Cleveland at home? So this is Cleveland at home, race fans. You can do it. I think that would be a pretty good track. Now, the crossover point there, I don't know how you would do that safely to have runoff and whatnot between the two points where the track meets kind of in the center. But I see the vision. I see the vision. So if we're using that airport, could be Cleveland 2.0. And then do I want to go back to Toronto? Well, I would want to go. Maybe we run 2 races in Ontario. Why not? We run 2 Indy Jeep, or we run twice in Indianapolis. I know, kidding. But, again, for the people who have walked up to me at the racetrack and said, David, you complain a lot about Cleveland. You better go to Toronto next year. I hope those of you who say that are right. The final bit on the schedule, and again, the reason so there's been some talk about Washington, D.C. I believe it was Adam Stern who brought up the possibility of Washington, D.C. being on the IndyCar calendar in the future. I heard this weekend that it might end up on the calendar next year, which makes me scratch my head a little bit because, first of all, I would go, that's pretty late. And the second part of that would be, where would it be? Would it be at RFK Stadium like the ALMS race was? Because half of that track has been torn up now. So you would have to come up with a new track. And I guess I'll say this. Is that a replacement, a last-minute replacement for Mexico City? And if that's the case, optically, ooh. But it would make sense with Fox being a 1/3 partner now in IndyCar. Washington, D.C. Those of you who wanted an East Coast race, maybe it'll be next year. Maybe it'll be 2 years from now. Definitely Washington, D.C. Is on the cards for whatever reason we want to talk about that. So, Rinus out at Coyne, Power out at Penske, new track in Toronto Ontario announced tomorrow. Probably going to be doing a video tomorrow. Unverified at 8, DL 500 Club at 8 on Wednesday. Who says it's the off season? Well, I will when I'm bored and the Colts suck and I only have NASCAR to watch. We'll see you in the next video.